during her tenure that many women actually were able to be recognized in the several political and economical sectors in Nigeria, for instance. And during this period, I was in my teen age, and I happened to be, being the last born of the family, I was really close to my mom, and I was able to know a lot about the challenges women faced then, because there was a lot of rebellions from men to say, okay, what's going to happen? But a soft approach Miriam did introduce, her eloquence, and sophisticated, you know, she was a very pretty woman. And she come across as, no, we're not coming to struggle with you. We're not coming to fight a battle. We just want to, you know, in a very subtle manner, which is, that's
we want our women to be
exactly
enlightened and as a result,
yeah.
support you as husbands, as brothers.
Exactly.
And
that was our approach. And that is what is no longer there today. And me, you know, when this topic came out, I was saying, yes, there's a lot of women who's got it so much out there. Some people like my mother, who lived their life in the village, they have all the resources, but they don't really have the avenue to showcase the talent, the gifts they've got. The society women now, so to say, the educated women, kind of like look down these people, and they just give them like crumbs from under the table. But they don't really invite them onto the table to eat, for instance. I'll give you an instance, Tommy. There was one rally they did in Abuja in the early days of Babangida. And Miriam had to invite all the women from rural women, and she lodged them in Sheraton in Abuja. It was in the news. And I remember clearly people criticizing her for lodging the rural people in the hotel on the basis that they weren't sleeping, they were constituting nuisance. And in response, you know what she said that amazes me? She said, no, because we are bringing them into an environment they aren't accustomed to. You turn down the AC and see them sleep. And they did, and it worked. These are just minor things that we as women, we are privileged. We are in the Western world. We are well educated. We've got the resources. What are we doing to those palm oil seller, pepper seller, cola nut seller? What are we doing to actually bring out the best in them? There's so many.
Aside of giving them stipends to come out and vote.
There's so many things that
during elections
Miriam did then, which to me, I still see her as a very significant, powerful role model to us as African women. That was when we had the African Initiative to have cooperative for women, in which a lot of women were empowered to set up their own business.
In fact, she, as a result of her involvement in Better Life for Rural Women, even the so-called educated and urban women found pride in wearing clothes like this to work and to other engagements.
Exactly.
Because I remember
there's so many
when I was growing up,
it
wasn't the fashion at all. You don't go near African clothes, and not at all. It was meant for the women in the village.
Yeah, and she gave a lot of women voice. She gave them that pride to be recognized as a woman, and in turn they were able to actually help their family. I tell you what, my mom, after the experience of Better Life, always said to us as children, none of your children should be illiterate. And she fought that every one of us are well educated. Why? Because she's enlightened. And the testimonies are still there today. Through that program in our village, there was no secondary school, but through my mom in the involvement, we were able to have a secondary school throughout the village.
Wow.
In which today, a lot of students are going there, they are being empowered. But what I realized in my last visit to Nigeria was all these things, there is no program set in place for continuity. For instance, like the cassava factory that was set up to empower farmers instead of them just being, ripped up. Yeah, they plant the cassava, take it to the factory, process it in large scale, sell it. All those things, no maintenance, all the political factors we have.
Also, they have not been sustained.
Exactly, there's no sustenance program put in place, which is the same as to any other infrastructure you see in Nigeria anyway. Yeah, people come in, they set up their own program, they set up their own initiative, but there is nothing substantial to actually make sure that these things have a progressive nature. But don't let us digress. The point today is, we as women, in politics, in economic, wherever we find ourselves, in a business sector, what are we actually doing? Are we just baking our cake and eating it all alone? Are we leaving just the crumbs for other women to eat? Are we building on our own ego? I have arrived. Not minding what is happening to these people in the village. That is the question that I keep asking myself. What are we? Are we living for ourselves alone?
So moving forward, Kemi, thank you very much. Moving forward, what do you advise? What sort of actions do you think can be put in place, especially with this present government, President Buhari in Nigeria, who is supposedly trying to put the country back on the right track? What sort of actions would you advise the government that can be put in place to revisit the sort of program that late Miriam Babangida had in those days, which I remember very well, Better Life for Rural Women. Albeit I was just about finishing university, yes, I remember.
That started in 87 to the
yes, late 80s, yes. Yeah. I remember very well. I was just about leaving university, and it was, I think I wrote something on it, so it's something that I know about. What sort of actions do you think can be put in place? Maybe not necessarily calling it the same name, but what sort of actions do you think government should put in place to once again revisit empowering our women in the rural areas, encouraging them to like you have the free trade sort of things that the British do all across Africa, where they encourage women farmers to crop their coffee, crop their tea, and export them where they get money into their pocket. What do you want to advise?
What I say, when it's during the inauguration and when this political transition took place, I was reading some articles about the First Lady, Mrs. Buhari, saying she doesn't want any position of the First Lady, all because it's been abused, which I quite understand, because when Miriam Babangida initiated the First Lady's office, it wasn't for ceremonial kind of flamboyancy that we experienced
lately
with past governments. But having said that, I believe that without even the First Lady's office, there's so many things that they could do. There's so many programs that they could do to facilitate the progression of the women in the rural area. For instance, I'll tell you, like all this cropping, the agricultural sector is still a very large area that is still under tapped in Nigeria. Not just in Nigeria, in Africa. Everybody want to wear collars. Everyone wants to be in trousers.
And do white collar jobs.
Exactly.
Women are not encouraged to
actually do that.
Be happy in farming.
Yes.
Not that they're not farming, but women are not being encouraged to enjoy farming.
They have, but they don't have enough resources. Farming is not just about having a
It's
plot
not
of
what
land.
it used to be.
For you to have a profitable farming, you must be able to have the resources to farm on acres
It must be
of
mechanized.
land, mechanized, fertilizers. All these things has to be. There has to be a program to make, to support women through this process. It's not just farming alone. We have fashion designers there. We have the hairdressers.
There's
so many things.
As a result of better life for rural women.
Yes, but